Have you ever been hit with a random childhood memory so embarrassing that your whole body cringes? 1 second, you're minding your own business. Then suddenly, your brain whispers, "Hey, remember that time you did that in public?" Yeah, we've all been there. Back when we were kids, we had zero self-awareness. We did and said things without a second thought. Things that, looking back, make us want to dig a hole and disappear forever. Today, we're diving into some of the most hilariously awkward, painfully embarrassing childhood moments that will make you laugh, cringe, and question how we ever survived growing up. And hey, if you relate to any of these, you're legally required to subscribe to Reddit True Vault and share your most embarrassing memory in the comments. Let's suffer together. Story 1. The day I swore off going commando. Some childhood mistakes teach you valuable lessons. Others, they haunt you forever. At that age, I was just starting to care what people thought, just beginning to understand the depths of embarrassment. That morning, for reasons I will never be able to explain, I made a horrific decision. I skipped the underwear. Maybe I thought it didn't matter. Maybe laundry day had screwed me over. Either way, it was the worst choice of my life. We were walking through the mall when my little brother, always the agent of chaos, decided to strike. With zero hesitation, he reached up, grabbed my waistband, and yanked with the force of 1,000 suns. Time stopped. Before I could react, my pants plummeted to my ankles, exposing way more than my dignity. And then, just to make things infinitely worse, I locked eyes with a group of teenage girls walking past. They saw everything. For 3 agonizing seconds, my soul left my body. Then, panic took over. I let out an unholy screech, yanked my pants up, and sprinted to the nearest restroom, where I seriously debated living in there forever. To this day, I never go commando. Ever. Story 2. The time I called 911 for math help. Some kids had cool childhood stories. Others, like me, had stories that their family refuses to let them forget. It all started with homework, the eternal enemy of childhood. I was stuck on a simple subtraction problem, but to me, it might as well have been rocket science. Frustrated, I went to my mom for help. She was busy and, without looking up, said, "Call someone if you need help." So, I did. The only problem? The only number I had memorized was 911. Without hesitation, I grabbed the phone, dialed, and when the operator picked up, I confidently asked, "Can you help me with my math homework?" There was a pause. A long one. Then, surprisingly, the operator actually walked me through the problem. I thought, wow, 911 is so helpful. That was until my mom walked into the room. The moment she realized who I was talking to, her face went pale, then red, then full-on volcanic eruption mode. She snatched the phone, apologized a million times, and hung up. To this day, family reunions aren't complete without someone bringing up the time I called emergency services for subtraction. Story 3. The church sprint of shame. Some childhood memories fade with time. Others, your family makes sure you never forget. I was 7 years old, sitting in church, trying my best to stay still while the sermon dragged on. Everything was peaceful until it hit me. The unstoppable, undeniable urge to pee. At first, I tried to hold it in. I wiggled in my seat, squeezed my legs together, and prayed, ironically, for the service to end soon. But my bladder wasn't interested in patience. And then, full-on panic took over. I shot up from my seat, yanked my pants down to my knees, because apparently, that was step 1, and took off running. "I have to pee. I have to pee." I screamed at the top of my lungs, bolting down the center aisle like I was leading a marathon. Gasps filled the room. A few people even gasped twice when they realized my pants weren't fully on. I dodged pews, jumped over an old lady's handbag, and burst through the side door, racing to the restroom like my life depended on it. I thought the nightmare was over. I was wrong. The church had security cameras. My parents? They got the footage. And because they're evil, they saved it forever. Now, at every family gathering, whenever someone needs a good laugh, they play the legendary clip of 7-year-old me, pants half down, screaming for salvation. I haven't known peace since. Story 4. The time I accidentally called my mom a slut. Some childhood mistakes are harmless. Others, they make you want to time travel just to punch your younger self in the face. I was at that age where I thought I was a poetic genius. I loved making up little rhymes, throwing words together just because they sounded cool. One afternoon, my mom was in a bad mood, so I decided to cheer her up with one of my masterpieces. I strutted into the room, cleared my throat, and proudly declared, "You're a grumpy gut and a slumpy slut." Silence. My mom's face froze. Her eyes widened. She blinked. Once. Twice. Meanwhile, I just stood there, grinning like an idiot, waiting for my applause. Then, boom, the look? The mom look? You know, the one that makes your soul leave your body. What did you just say? It was at that moment I realized I had severely miscalculated. I tried to explain that slut just sounded good with gut, but the damage was done. I got a very long lecture about words I was never allowed to say again. Years later, when I finally understood what I had called her, I nearly died of secondhand embarrassment. I still haven't recovered. Story 5. The time 6-year-old me roasted a stranger by accident. Some kids are cute and charming. Others? They have no filter and zero survival instincts. Guess which one I was? I was 6 years old, which meant my mouth worked twice as fast as my brain. One day, I was at the grocery store with my mom, standing in line behind a very large woman. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just a clueless little kid. Then, out of nowhere, her pager went off with a loud, repetitive beep, 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 and in my tiny, unfiltered brain, I made the worst connection possible. MOM. Watch out. She's backing up. The entire store went silent. My mom's soul left her body. The woman slowly turned around, and I just stood there, grinning proudly, completely unaware that I had just committed social suicide. That was strike 1. Strike 2 came a week later, when I spotted another plus-sized woman at the checkout. Without hesitation, I pointed straight at her and yelled for the whole world to hear. MOM. Look, that lady is really fat. I don't remember what happened next. Probably because my mom blacked out from embarrassment and dragged me out of there so fast my tiny brain couldn't process it. Needless to say, we didn't go back to that grocery store for a long, long time. Story 6. The time 7-year-old me learned a harsh lesson about outdoor plumbing. Some childhood mistakes fade with time. Others, they haunt you forever, especially when a nosy old lady is involved. I was 7 years old, and on that fateful day, the universe decided to test my pee tank in the worst way possible. I had just come home from playing outside when I realized the door was locked. Mom wasn't home yet, and my pee tank was seconds away from overflowing. I panicked. Now, at 7, my logic was simple. Boys could pee outside, so why couldn't I? It seemed totally fair. So, after a quick glance around, I squatted behind a tree in our front yard, thinking I was a genius. I was not a genius. Just as I was about to let nature take its course, a blood-curdling shriek filled the air. Young lady, what on earth do you think you're doing? I froze mid-squat. My heart stopped. Standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, was Mrs. Henderson, the neighborhood watchdog. Panic mode activated. I yanked my pants up and tried to scale the fence like a criminal on the run. But before I could escape, my traitorous neighbor ratted me out to my mom. That was the day I learned. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Now, as an adult, yeah, I still can't pee outside. Too risky. Some childhood mistakes are cute. Others, they ruin someone's lunch forever. Story 7. The time I mistook a picnic basket for a toilet. I was almost 4 years old, enjoying a beach day with my mom and grandma. The sun was shining, the waves were crashing, and life was good. But then, my pee tank, because let's be honest, that's what it was at that age, hit max capacity. Now, as a toddler, I had 2 main priorities in life. 1. Go pee the moment I feel like it. 2. Not waste precious playtime looking for a bathroom. And that's when I saw it. A perfectly open picnic basket sitting right there on the sand. In my tiny, completely clueless brain, it looked exactly like a toilet. No lid. No problem. Nature calls, and 4-year-old me answers. So, without hesitation, I dropped my swim trunks and let it flow straight into the basket. By the time the woman returned, my crime scene was fully soaked. She opened the basket, took one whiff, and let out the most horrified scream imaginable. My family? They had no idea. We left before anyone connected the dots. To this day, I wonder if that woman ever figured out why her sandwiches smelled like betrayal. Story 8. The time my dad wanted to disown me in a restaurant. Some childhood mistakes are adorable. Others, they make your parents wish they could teleport out of existence. I was too young to have a filter. That perfect age where your mouth operates at full speed while your brain is still buffering. One evening, my dad took me to a Chinese restaurant for dinner. The place was packed. The smell of fresh dumplings filled the air, and I was living my best life. Then, for absolutely no reason, my tiny brain decided it was time for a musical performance. Out of nowhere, I started singing nonsense sounds loudly. And by nonsense, I mean something along the lines of ching ching chong ching. I thought I was being fun. My dad, he looked like he had been hit by a truck. The moment those words left my mouth, he panicked hard. He immediately started apologizing to the staff, speaking so fast I couldn't even understand what was happening. Meanwhile, I just sat there, confused and mildly offended that my show was being interrupted. "Dad, why are you sorry?" "That's how they talk," I said proudly. His soul visibly left his body. That was the night I learned some things are better left unsaid. And now, as an adult, I just know a future child of mine will do this to me one day. Story 9. The day white pants and my dignity were destroyed. Some childhood mistakes teach you a lesson. Others, they make sure you never wear white pants again. I was 8 years old enough to know embarrassment, but apparently not old enough to make good fashion choices. That morning, I proudly put on a crisp pair of white pants. In my head, I looked like a boss, but in reality, I was one bad decision away from eternal humiliation. Then, Mother Nature decided to ruin my life. By the time I got on the school bus, it had started pouring rain. No big deal, right? Just a little water. What's the worst that could happen? The answer came as soon as I stepped off the bus. My foot slipped, my arms flailed, and in slow motion horror, I landed flat on my butt, right into a giant, muddy puddle. But the real nightmare? When I stood up, my once pristine white pants now had a huge, brown stain right on my butt. And just like that, my life was over. Cue laughter from every direction. For the rest of the day, I had exactly 2 options. 1. Pretend it didn't happen, as if. 2. Accept my fate and suffer. I suffered. A lot. It didn't help that my classmates weren't exactly forgiving. "Dude, did you just poop your pants?" "Bro, it's right there." "You didn't make it, huh?" "Oh my god, he's literally sitting in it." No matter how many times I swore it was mud, no one believed me. By lunchtime, I had fully accepted my new identity as the kid who pooped his pants in white jeans. By the time the day was over, I made a life-altering decision. I would never, ever wear white pants again. And I haven't. Childhood is full of innocent mistakes, bad decisions, and moments of pure humiliation. But you know what's worse than experiencing them? Having your family remind you about them for the rest of your life. No matter how much time passes, these stories never die. Family gatherings? Someone brings it up. Old home videos? There it is, in 4K embarrassment. You may grow up, but your childhood fails will haunt you forever. So now it's your turn. What's the most ridiculous thing you did as a kid? Drop it in the comments. And don't forget, subscribe to Reddit True Vault so you never miss another hilarious, cringe-filled story.